The massive chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with soft blue light. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose high toward the domed ceiling. The air smelled like a mix of flowers and ocean, a special blend made to please most species. In the center of the room stood a round platform where speakers could address the council. Ambassador Elena Chen of Earth sat quietly in the human section. Unlike many alien representatives who wore elaborate robes or ceremonial armor, she dressed simply in a dark blue uniform, with only a small earth patch on her shoulder. Her black hair was tied back neatly, and her face showed no emotion as she listened to the current speaker. The speaker was High Counselor Vrax of the Varaxian Directorate. His tall, thin body was covered in shimmering scales that changed color with his emotions. Right now they glowed a confident gold as he spoke about new trade regulations. The Council has decided that all wormhole technology must be placed under central control, Vrax announced. His voice boomed through the translation system. This is for the safety and prosperity of all member worlds. Elena's assistant, Marcus Kim, leaned toward her and whispered, "That's the third major technology they've tried to take from us this year." Elena nodded slightly but remained silent. For 50 years, humans had played by the Council's rules. They had shared their unique innovations, accepted limits on their expansion, and tried to be good galactic citizens. But in recent months, the restrictions had grown increasingly unfair. In her pocket, Elena's secure communicator vibrated. She glanced at the message from Earth's government. Confirmation received. You are authorized to proceed. The moment had come. As Vrax finished speaking, Elena stood up. This was unusual during council proceedings, and heads turned toward the human section. Without waiting to be recognized, she walked calmly to the central platform. Security drones hovered closer but did not stop her. Ambassador Chen has not been granted speaking time, Vrax said, his scales flickering to an annoyed orange. Elena ignored him and faced the assembly. The massive chamber fell silent as thousands of beings waited to hear what would make a junior species break protocol so boldly. For 50 Earth years, humanity has honored the Galactic Accords, Elena began, her voice steady and clear. We have shared our technology, opened our system to trade, and fought in your wars. We have accepted increasingly restrictive regulations on human innovation and expansion. She paused, looking around the chamber. Some representatives shifted, uncomfortably. Today I am here to inform you that Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Accords effective immediately. The silence lasted 3 heartbeats before the chamber erupted in noise. Representatives jumped to their feet. Translators struggled to keep up with shouted questions, and the security drones spun in confusion. Vrax's scales turned a deep red. This is outrageous. You cannot simply withdraw. Actually, we can, Elena replied calmly. Section 47B of the original treaty preserves the right of any signatory to withdraw with immediate effect if they believe the accords no longer serve mutual benefit. We are exercising that right. She gestured to the human delegation, and as one they stood up. There were only 20 of them among thousands of aliens, but in this moment, they seemed to fill the chamber with their presence. All human ships will be recalled to Sol system. All human technical advisors will return home. Earth's borders will be closed to council traffic until new agreements can be reached. Agreements that respect humanity as true equals. On the upper levels, representatives of the Marodi Collective, humanity's oldest allies in space, looked worried. Their ambassador, a being with 4 slender arms and iridescent skin, raised all hands in a gesture seeking attention. Ambassador Chen, surely we can discuss these concerns, the Marodi called out. A total withdrawal will cause significant disruption. Elena's face softened slightly. The Marodi have been true friends to Earth. We will maintain our separate treaties with your people. This caused another wave of shouting as other species demanded similar treatment. Elena raised her hand for silence, but the noise only grew. In his ornate seat, Elder Kuzovik of the Ancient Observers watched with interest. The eldest spacefaring race rarely spoke in council matters, but his 8 eyes blinked rapidly in their species' expression of concern. He turned to his aide and whispered something that made the younger being hurry from the chamber. Near the back, A young analyst named Creel from the Tacit Confederation tapped rapidly on his data pad. Unlike the politicians, he immediately understood the practical implications. His long fingers flew over the screen as he accessed trade data, shipping routes, and technology dependencies. "This is bad," he muttered to himself. His preliminary calculations showed that without human recycling technology and wormhole control, over 60% of galactic trade would collapse within months. The Council had become dependent on human innovation without realizing it. "The main floor," Vrax was shouting now. "If Earth withdraws, there will be consequences. The Council can impose sanctions that will cripple human space." Elena smiled slightly. "I think you'll find the opposite is true, High Counselor." She stepped down from the platform and walked toward the exit. The entire human delegation followed her in perfect order. "This council session will continue," Vrax called out. "Security, block the exits." But the security forces, confused by conflicting commands from different council members, did nothing as the humans left. As the doors closed behind them, Elena's confident expression fell away. She looked at Marcus with worried eyes. "It's done," she said quietly. "Now we find out if Earth's gamble will work." Marcus nodded grimly. "The next few days will tell us if we've won our independence or started a war." In the corridor outside, they could hear the pandemonium continuing in the chamber. The youngest spacefaring race had just done what no one thought possible. They had walked away from the Galactic Council, and the galaxy would never be the same. Back in the chamber, Creel the analyst looked up from his datapad with wide eyes. The numbers didn't lie. Without humanity, the carefully balanced galactic economy would unravel faster than anyone realized. He needed to warn someone, but who would listen to a junior analyst when even the council elders were shouting at each other? As the chaos continued, the ancient automated systems of the council building recorded everything, silently transmitting data to watchers unknown even to the council itself. The walkout had begun. Now the real panic would follow. 3 weeks passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council. At first, many council members had laughed it off. What could one young species do against the combined might of thousands of worlds? Humans were barely space travelers for a century. Surely they would come crawling back when they realized their mistake. They were wrong. On the outer rim world of Tyrannus IV, Governor Lox stood before a failing atmospheric processor. The massive machine, designed by human engineers, had kept the colony's air breathable for 15 years. Now warning lights flashed across its control panel. "Can you fix it?" Lox asked the maintenance chief, a 6-legged hexie named Krill. Krill clicked his mandibles nervously. "We're trying. But the humans designed these systems with unusual parts. We never bothered to learn how they worked inside." "The council promised replacement technicians," Lox said. "They haven't arrived," Krill replied. "And now I'm getting reports of failures on 6 other colonies. All human technology." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. The first signs were small: communication delays, power fluctuations, recycling systems working at reduced capacity. But as days passed, the problems grew. On the bustling trade hub of Nevos Prime, crowds gathered in the streets. The planet imported 70% of its food, and human merchant ships had always been the most reliable carriers. Now, with those ships gone, food warehouses stood nearly empty. "The next shipment will arrive tomorrow," announced the planetary governor from a balcony above the crowd, but his voice lacked confidence. Behind him, his aide whispered, "The replacement transport is still 3 days out. Without human navigators using their quantum slipstream shortcuts, the journey takes triple the time." In the orbital command center, above Earth, Ambassador Elena Chen watched reports from across the galaxy on multiple screens. Her eyes were tired from lack of sleep, but she stood straight as Earth's president entered the room. "It's working even faster than we predicted," the president said. Elena nodded. "The council never realized how dependent they had become on our technologies. They always saw us as the students, never the teachers." "Some of our people are questioning whether this strategy is too harsh," the president said. "The reports of food shortages on Nevos Prime." We sent emergency supplies through our Marodi allies, Elena interrupted. No one will starve, but the Council needs to understand what's at stake. She walked to a secure terminal and entered a complex code. A hologram appeared showing laboratory images. This is what our intelligence discovered 3 months ago in a secret Varaxian facility. The president's face paled as he studied the images. They were using our genetic material to create weapons designed specifically to target humans, Elena finished. Bioweapons that would have killed billions while leaving other species unharmed. On the Galactic Council's central station, young analyst Creel hurried through a dimly lit corridor. His datapad showed trading reports from across the galaxy, and the numbers were worse than he had feared. Without human recycling technology, resource shortages were developing on hundreds of worlds. Without human-maintained wormhole nodes, shipping times had increased dramatically. Creel had tried to warn his superiors, but no one would listen. The political leaders were too busy with emergency sessions and blame games. A door slid open on his right, and a hand pulled him inside. Creel found himself in a small, windowless room with 7 beings he had never expected to meet, representatives from the oldest races in the galaxy. The Elder Council rarely interfered in regular politics. You understand the true problem, said a tall, translucent being that Creel recognized as an Etheri, one of the first races to reach the stars millions of years ago. Creel swallowed nervously. The economic systems are collapsing without human technology, but nobody will listen to me. They are listening to us even less, said another elder, a crystalline entity that glowed with soft internal light. The Council has fallen under Varaxian influence, and they push for military action against Earth. Military action? Creel gasped. But that would be disastrous, the Etheri finished. Yet we have failed to prevent it. The Varaxian Directorate has convinced enough council members that humanity must be forced back into the fold. The crystalline being moved closer to Creel. We have watched humanity since they first looked to the stars. They are different from other young species. More unpredictable. We hoped they would integrate slowly, another elder said. But the Varaxians grew fearful of human potential and sought to control them through the Council's regulations. The Etheri pointed to a hidden console on the wall. We are showing you this because we need someone who can still move freely among the Council. The console activated, showing ancient records that Creel had never seen before. This is Operation Firebreak, the Etheri explained. A protocol created eons ago for a situation we hoped would never arise. Creel read the screen with growing horror. Operation Firebreak was a plan to completely isolate a species technologically, to cut them off from the galactic community not as punishment, but as containment. You can't be serious, Creel whispered. Humanity hasn't done anything to deserve this. It is not what they have done, the crystalline being said. It is what the Varaxians fear they might do. On the screen, Creel saw simulations of human development curves that shot upward at impossible angles. Unlike other species, humans advanced in unpredictable leaps rather than steady progress. The Varaxian fleet has already departed for the Sol system, the Etheri said. They believe a show of force will bring humanity back under control. And if it doesn't? Creel asked. The elders exchanged glances. Then we may learn whether our ancient fears about humanity were justified. Back on Earth, alarms sounded throughout the orbital command center. Elena rushed to the main screen where a tactical officer pointed to incoming signals. Varaxian battleships just entered the Oort cloud, the officer reported. At least 30 capital ships with support vessels. How long until they reach Earth? Elena asked. 4 days at their current speed. Elena turned to the president. We knew this might happen. Now we find out if our defenses are ready. The president nodded grimly. Activate Defense Protocol Aurora and contact Admiral Tanaka. As commands went out, Elena stared at the screen showing the approaching fleet. The Varaxians had made their move, but they had no idea what humanity had been hiding all these years. The butterfly effect of humanity's withdrawal was about to create a storm that would change the galaxy forever. The Varaxian battle fleet emerged from hyperspace near Saturn's rings. The massive ships gleamed in the distant sunlight, their hulls covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. At the center of the fleet, Supreme Commander Kraz stood, on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable Victory. His scales shimmered with confidence as he surveyed the human solar system. Pathetic defenses, he said, looking at the scanner readings. Only a few hundred ships guarding their homeworld. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, nodded in agreement. The humans must have realized resistance is foolish. Send the message we prepared, Kraz ordered. Let them know they can surrender peacefully and rejoin the Council under our protection. Otherwise, we will demonstrate our power. The message was transmitted toward Earth. On the command bridge of Earth's Orbital Defense Station, Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka received it with a small smile. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. They think we're weak, he said to his officers. That's exactly what we wanted. For 50 years, humanity had hidden its true military capabilities, while sharing medical, technology, terraforming techniques, and trade innovations. They had kept their defense research secret. The ships visible to the Varaxian scanners were only the outer defense layer. Admiral Tanaka activated the station's communication system. All ships, initiate Defense Plan Theta. Remember your training. Across the solar system, hidden installations came to life. Platforms that had appeared to be mining operations or research stations transformed as hidden panels opened to reveal weapons. Small, fast ships emerged from bases hidden in asteroids and moons. On the Galactic Council station, many representatives gathered around screens showing the approaching conflict. The Varaxians had convinced the Council that a show of force was necessary to bring humanity back into line. Few expected actual fighting. Creel, the Tasic analyst, watched from a corner, his datapad recording everything. He noticed something odd in the communication patterns. Subtle signals passing between certain council members and Earth's command. Someone on the council was helping humanity. Back in the Saturn area, Commander Kraz grew impatient. They've had enough time to consider. Begin the approach to Earth. Formation Delta. The Varaxian fleet moved forward in a perfect attack pattern that had won hundreds of battles across the galaxy. Their strategy was simple but effective. Overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision. What they didn't expect was that humans had never forgotten something the rest of the galaxy considered primitive. The art of unconventional warfare. The alien armada advanced, the human ships executed maneuvers that seemed chaotic and disorganized. Some retreated quickly, others moved in seemingly random patterns. They're panicking, Vex said with satisfaction. Kraz wasn't so sure. Something isn't right. Why would they? His words were cut short as alarms blared across the bridge. The human ships weren't retreating. They were luring the Varaxian fleet into a carefully planned trap. Admiral Tanaka watched from his command center as the plan unfolded. Unlike the other galactic species who had evolved toward clean, predictable warfare with minimal casualties, humans had studied the messy, brutal efficiency of their own history. They're in position, his tactical officer reported. All units, ready? Tanaka nodded. Execute. Throughout the solar system, hidden human weapons activated simultaneously. Stealth satellites deployed around Saturn's moons revealed themselves, firing precisely targeted energy beams that disrupted the Varaxian ships' shield frequencies. From the outer planets, specially designed missiles launched, following complex paths that confounded enemy tracking systems. These weren't simple explosives. They carried electronic warfare packages that invaded the Varaxian fleet's communication systems. We're being jammed, Vex shouted, as the flagship's screens flickered. Our ships can't coordinate. Kraz stared in disbelief as his perfect formation fell into disarray. How could humans, barely a century into space travel, have developed such advanced countermeasures? The answer was simple. Humanity had always prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Even as they joined the galactic community, they had quietly built defenses based on a history of conflict that stretched back thousands of years. On the smaller human ships, Crews executed maneuvers that confused the Varaxian targeting systems. They moved in patterns based on Earth predators: wolves surrounding prey, sharks circling before attacking, falcons diving from unexpected angles. Second wave. Engage, Admiral Tanaka ordered. The main human battle fleet emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt. These ships were unlike anything the Varaxians had seen before. Not the standardized designs used throughout the galaxy, but specialized vessels built for specific combat roles. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence as the supposedly superior Varaxian fleet found itself surrounded and outmaneuvered. The humans were fighting with a fraction of the numbers, but their tactics were devastatingly effective. Creel's datapad captured it all, but his attention was drawn to something others hadn't noticed: coded transmissions between several council members and the human command. He zoomed in on one representative in particular, an unassuming delegate from the Meridian Alliance who sat quietly in the back of the chamber. Back in the battle, Commander Kraz realized he had made a terrible mistake. Pull back, reform at the rally point. But it was too late. The human ships had divided his fleet into isolated groups that couldn't support each other, and now the second phase of Earth's defense plan began. Rather than destroying the Varaxian ships, the human vessels fired specialized weapons that disabled their propulsion and weapon systems while leaving life support intact. This wasn't about destruction. It was about sending a message. Admiral Tanaka opened a direct channel to the Varaxian flagship. Commander Kraz, your fleet is disabled. You have two choices: power down your remaining systems and accept boarding parties, or force us to take more permanent measures. On his damaged bridge, Kraz's scales had turned pale blue, the Varaxian color of shock and disbelief. How is this possible? You're just humans. Tanaka's voice was calm but firm. That's where you made your mistake. You never bothered to study our history. While the galaxy evolved toward ritualized combat with minimal casualties, we never forgot the harsh lessons that forged our civilization. In the council chamber, the representatives were in uproar. The Varaxian delegation demanded immediate reinforcements be sent. Others called for peace negotiations. The division that had started with humanity's withdrawal now threatened to tear the council apart. Creel slipped away from the chaos, following the Meridian representative who was quietly leaving the chamber. He had to understand what was happening, why some council members seemed to be helping humanity. As the Varaxian fleet surrendered, Admiral Tanaka received a private message from Ambassador Chen. Phase 3 is ready, she reported. The council is fracturing just as we predicted. Now it's time to reveal what we found in the Varaxian archives. Tanaka nodded slowly. The military victory was only the beginning. The real battle, for the truth and the future of humanity in the galaxy, was just getting started. News of the Varaxian fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy with stunning speed. On 1,000 worlds, beings gathered around communication terminals to watch the recordings. The supposedly primitive humans had outmaneuvered and disabled one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy without destroying a single ship. In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos reigned. The Varaxian representatives demanded that the full might of the Council's combined fleets be sent to punish Earth. Others called for immediate peace talks. The division that had begun with humanity's withdrawal now threatened to tear the Council apart. Amidst the shouting, a small, unassuming figure stepped onto the central speaking platform. It was Ambassador Kell of the Marodi Collective, humanity's closest allies. His 4 slender arms raised in the traditional gesture requesting silence. Honorable representatives, he began, his gentle voice somehow carrying over the noise. Before any further action is taken against Earth, there is information you must know. The chamber quieted, curious about what the normally reserved Marodi might say. For too long, certain powers within this council have hidden historical truths, Ambassador Kell continued. Today that ends. He activated a small device in his hand. The chamber's main display screens flickered and changed to show ancient data files with timestamps that made many representatives gasp. These are historical archives dating back 50,000 standard years, Kel explained. They have been kept classified by the elder races, but my people have maintained our own records. The screens showed images that shocked the assembly: ancient, star charts marked with human symbols, technological schematics with human writing, and most surprising of all, pictures of early humans standing alongside various alien species in what appeared to be cooperative ventures. Humanity is not a newcomer to galactic society, Kel said. They were among the founders of the first interstellar alliance. Their civilization achieved technological wonders beyond even our current understanding. On the Galactic Council station's security level, Creel the Tacit analyst had finally caught up with the Meridian representative he'd been following. The being turned to face him, revealing features that seemed oddly familiar. "You've been watching me," the Meridian said. "Good. That shows intelligence." "You've been helping the humans," Creel replied. "During the battle, you were sending them tactical information." The Meridian smiled. "Not just me. There are many of us who have waited centuries for this moment." "Who are you really?" Creel asked. "My people are called the Guardians," the being answered. "We were appointed by the ancient humans to watch over them during their long sleep." In the council chamber, Ambassador Kell continued revealing the suppressed history. The screen showed a catastrophic event that had occurred 50,000 years ago, a massive energy wave that had swept through a portion of the galaxy, destroying entire star systems. Facing this crisis, the ancient human civilization made an unprecedented decision, Kell explained. Rather than abandoning their homeworld, they chose to retreat to Earth and voluntarily regress their technology. They seeded guardian species throughout nearby systems to protect them during their vulnerable redevelopment. The chamber erupted in disbelief and questions. This couldn't be true. Humans were just another young race, weren't they? On Earth, Ambassador. Helena Chen watched the council broadcast with a calm expression. The president stood beside her, his face showing mixed emotions. "Should we confirm these revelations?" he asked. Chen shook her head. "Not yet. Let them process this information. First, our actions will speak louder than any confirmation." Across the solar system, ancient structures long thought to be natural formations began activating in response to specific human genetic signatures. On Mars, what scientists had believed were unusual rock formations revealed themselves as dormant, monitoring stations. On Europa beneath the ice, long dormant systems awakened. In the secure section of the council station, Creel stared at his datapad in shock. The being who called himself a guardian had given him access to the true documentation behind Operation Firebreak. It wasn't about fear of human aggression, the Guardian explained. It was terror that humanity might reclaim its ancient knowledge and hold the elder races accountable for their stewardship of the galaxy. Creel read the classified records with growing horror. After the ancient humans had gone into their self-imposed isolation, certain elder races had seized control of the galaxy's development. They had deliberately guided younger species along technological paths that would never threaten their dominance. They had hidden or destroyed records of humanity's contributions. But why would humans do this, Creel asked. Why would such an advanced civilization choose to start over? The Guardian's expression turned sad. The energy wave that threatened. The galaxy was not a natural phenomenon. It was the result of an experiment gone wrong. A human experiment trying to access higher dimensions. Rather than risk another such disaster, they chose to begin again, to rediscover space travel slowly and carefully. Back in the council chamber, the revelations continued. Ambassador Kell showed evidence of how the Varaxian Directorate had discovered the truth about humanity's origins a decade ago and had been working to prevent Earth from reclaiming its heritage. The restrictions on human technology weren't for the good of the galaxy, Kell said. They were to keep humanity contained. The bioweapons program that prompted Earth's withdrawal was the final step, an attempt to eliminate humans before they could remember who they truly were. On his flagship near Saturn, Commander Kraz watched the broadcast with scales turned ash gray, the Varaxian color of shame. The defeat at human hands had been humiliating, but these revelations were far worse. He had been used as a tool by his own government to commit potential genocide. Send a message to Admiral Tanaka, he ordered. Tell him I request a private meeting. Back on Earth, strange things were happening. At archaeological sites around the world, ancient artifacts began, glowing with soft blue light. In orbit, long dormant satellites activated, connecting to Earth's modern systems with technology far beyond current understanding. In the council chamber, a representative from one of the elder races finally stood to speak. The ancient being's voice wavered with age and emotion. It is true, they admitted. We have hidden this history out of fear and shame. Earth was not just another member world. It was the cradle of the first great galactic civilization. And now, they have remembered. Ambassador Chen received word of these developments with calm acceptance. The time had come for the next phase of humanity's plan. She turned to Admiral Tanaka, who had returned from the battle. It's happening faster than we expected, she said. The awakening has begun. Tanaka nodded solemnly. And the Viraxians will not accept defeat easily. They still have fleets throughout the galaxy. We should prepare for their counter-move. Chen looked out at the stars visible through the command center's viewport. They'll try something desperate now, something unexpected. We'll be ready, Tanaka assured her. But behind his confident words, uncertainty lingered. Humanity was remembering its ancient past, but were they ready to reclaim their place among the stars? And what other secrets waited in the darkness between worlds? 3 days after the revelations about humanity's ancient past shocked the galaxy, the Viraxian Directorate made its desperate move. Rather than admitting defeat, the ruling council on their homeworld enacted an emergency protocol that they had kept hidden for centuries. On the command ship of the remaining Viraxian fleet, Grand Admiral Sorn received the encrypted orders with growing disbelief. His scales shifted from their normal gold to a deep purple of moral conflict. They cannot be serious, he whispered to himself. He read the orders again, hoping he had misunderstood. But the message was clear. He was to deploy a quantum disruptor against Earth's sun. The quantum disruptor was not designed to destroy the star completely. That would be too obvious an act of genocide. Instead, it would trigger a precisely calculated solar flare that would wipe out Earth's defensive capabilities and communication systems without destroying the planet itself. The radiation would kill millions, but leave the world largely intact for later Viraxian occupation. Admiral Sorn paced his private chamber. He had served the Directorate loyally for 200 years, but this order crossed a line he had never thought his people would cross. Yet he knew the penalty for disobedience. Prepare the quantum disruptor, he finally ordered his weapons officer. We will approach from the dark side of Mercury to avoid detection. In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral Tanaka studied the reports from the sensor network that humanity had secretly built throughout the solar system. Strange energy readings were coming from the remnants of the Viraxian fleet. They're preparing something big, he told Ambassador Chen. Something that doesn't match any known Viraxian weapon. Chen frowned. Our intelligence from the Guardian agent suggests they might have older technologies that the Council banned centuries ago. How do we defend against something we've never seen? Tanaka asked. Chen smiled slightly. The same way humans have always survived, by thinking differently than everyone else. While the galactic powers relied on massive fleets and overwhelming force, humanity had perfected the art of the unexpected response. Throughout Earth's long history, smaller forces had often defeated larger ones through innovation and surprise. Launch the Firefly network, Chen ordered. All 10,000 units. Across Earth's orbital platforms, small launch bays opened. Thousands of simple projectiles shot outward in seemingly random directions. The Viraxian sensors detected the launch but could not determine what purpose these primitive objects served. They appear to be simple metal spheres, reported the Viraxian science officer. No weapons, minimal power signatures. Admiral Sorn shrugged. Likely some kind of distraction. Continue with the approach. What the Viraxians didn't understand was that humans had always been masters of adaptation. These simple spheres contained technology based on Earth's ancient knowledge, technology that was beginning to reawaken in humanity's collective memory. As the Firefly network spread throughout the solar system, each sphere unfolded into a delicate array of quantum sensors and emitters. They formed an invisible web of energy that surrounded the sun in a protective network. On the Galactic Council station, Creel hurried through the corridors with urgent news. He had been working with the Guardian agents to translate more of the ancient human records, and what he discovered was alarming. "Ambassador Chen," he called out as he burst into the Earth delegation's temporary office. "I need to contact Earth immediately." The human diplomats looked up in surprise. A Tasik rarely showed such emotion. "I've found records of defensive systems from the ancient human civilization," Creel explained breathlessly. "Systems designed to protect against exactly what the Voraxians are planning." Meanwhile, the Voraxian fleet moved silently into position near Mercury. The massive quantum disruptor extended from the flagship's hull, aiming toward the sun. The weapon began charging, drawing power from the ship's main reactors. 2 minutes to firing range, reported the tactical officer. Admiral Sorn nodded grimly. He had made his decision. He would follow orders, but afterward he would ensure that the truth of this action became known throughout the galaxy. Perhaps then, his people would face justice for what they were about to do. What none of them expected was that humans had always been playing a different game than the rest of the galaxy, while other species focused on bigger weapons and stronger shields. Humanity had mastered the subtle art of foresight. As the quantum disruptor reached full power, the Firefly network activated. Each sphere locked into position, and together they created an entanglement field surrounding the sun. The ancient human technology was essentially creating a backup of the sun's current state, preserving its quantum signature. "Fire!" ordered Admiral Sorn. The quantum disruptor released its energy in a blinding beam that struck the sun's surface. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a massive solar flare began to form, growing exponentially as it reached outward, toward Earth. On Earth's command center, scientists watched with calm confidence as their instruments tracked the approaching disaster. "Quantum entanglement network at full capacity," reported the chief scientist. "Ready to implement countermeasure." Admiral Tanaka gave the order. "Activate." The Firefly network glowed with energy as it enforced the sun's previous quantum state, essentially reminding the star of its proper behavior. The artificial solar flare began to collapse in on itself, the disruption canceled by the entanglement field. On the Voraxian flagship, the crew stared in disbelief at their sensors. "Impossible!" exclaimed the science officer. "The solar disruption is disappearing." Admiral Sorn watched as the carefully calculated attack simply vanished. Somehow the humans had known what was coming, and had prepared a defense that no known civilization should have been capable of developing. Before he could order a retreat, a new signal appeared on the communication system. It was a direct transmission, from Earth, specifically targeted to his ship. The main screen activated to show Ambassador Elena Chen. She was not in the command center, but had instead traveled to an underground location somewhere on Earth's surface. Behind her stood walls covered in ancient symbols that made Admiral Sorn's scales pale in recognition. "Admiral Sorn," Chen said calmly, "I thought it was time we spoke directly." "How did you counter the quantum disruptor?" Sorn asked, his voice barely a whisper. "That technology is beyond even the elder races." "Not beyond the understanding of our ancestors," Chen replied, "and not beyond what we're beginning to remember." She stepped aside, revealing what appeared to be an ancient control room. Chen placed her hand on a simple crystal panel, and the entire chamber illuminated with light. "I'm currently standing in what your people would call a monitoring node," she explained. "One of thousands that were placed throughout this sector of the galaxy by our ancestors. This particular one was hidden beneath what humans now call Stonehenge." On screens throughout the Galactic Council station, the same image appeared. Representatives from 1,000 worlds watched as Ambassador Chen activated systems that had lain dormant for 50 millennia. "I believe it's time for us to have an honest conversation about the future of our galaxy," Chen said, her voice broadcasting to all worlds, beginning with the truth about the Galactic Council itself. The chamber walls around her became transparent, revealing that the entire council headquarters was actually built within an ancient human monitoring outpost, disguised and repurposed for millennia. The galaxy would never be the same again. 6 months passed since Ambassador Chen revealed the truth about the Galactic Council headquarters. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The panic that began with humanity's withdrawal had transformed into something no one expected: hope. On the Varaxian homeworld, citizens filled the streets in peaceful protest after learning about their leader's attempted attack on Earth's sun. The revelation that their government had secretly developed forbidden weapons and planned to use them against a civilian population shook Varaxian society to its core. No more secrets. No more wars, the protesters chanted. Their scales shimmered, with colors of change and renewal. Within weeks, the Varaxian Directorate collapsed. A new government formed, led by Admiral Sorn, who had chosen to reveal the truth about the attack to his own people, even knowing it would mean the end of the old order. Across the galaxy, similar changes swept through other worlds. The elder races, that had controlled galactic politics for millennia, found their authority questioned for the first time. The revelation that they had hidden humanity's true history made many younger species wonder what else had been kept from them. On the newly reformed council station, representatives gathered in a chamber that looked very different from before. The ornate decorations that had hidden the station's true nature were gone, revealing the elegant simplicity of ancient human design. Light streamed through crystal walls that had been covered for centuries. Creel, now serving as Earth's official liaison to the council, stood with a data pad as he guided a group of representatives through the renovated space. The station was originally a monitoring outpost, he explained, but not for control or domination as many feared. It was designed to share knowledge and maintain communication between star systems. A young Varaxian delegate raised her hand. Is it true that humans could have used the ancient systems to take control of the galaxy? Creel smiled. That was always the fear of the elder races. But they misunderstood the purpose of this technology. It was never about control. On Earth, the awakening of ancient knowledge continued at a careful pace. Ambassador Chen had insisted that humanity would not rush to reclaim their advanced technology. The lessons of the past were clear. Development too rapid could lead to disaster. Instead, Earth opened its archives, revealing technological approaches that had been dismissed as primitive, but proved to be elegant solutions other races had overlooked in their complex thinking. In a research center near the reactivated Stonehenge node, Chen met with Admiral Tanaka to discuss the progress of the new Galactic Accords. The Council has accepted our proposal, Chen said, looking at a holographic display showing representatives from 1,000 worlds signing the new agreement. Power will no longer be concentrated among the elder races. Each species will have an equal voice. Tanaka nodded in approval. And our technology sharing initiative? Moving faster than expected, Chen replied. Worlds that were dependent on Varaxian maintenance engineers are now implementing our simplified systems. They're finding that technology doesn't need to be complex to be effective. This was perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the understanding that elegant simplicity often surpassed complicated solutions. Earth's recycling technology, which had seemed primitive to advanced races, turned out to be more sustainable and adaptable than the complex systems used elsewhere. On the outer rim world of Tyrannus IV, Governor Lox watched with amazement as human engineers worked alongside local technicians to install a new atmospheric processor. Unlike the previous model, this one had no black box components that only specialists could maintain. Every part was designed to be repaired or replaced by local workers. It will last for generations without needing outside help, the head engineer explained, and it uses half the energy of the old system. This approach was being repeated on hundreds of worlds. Instead of creating dependency, the new human technologies emphasized self-sufficiency and sustainability. It was a radically different vision of galactic development. In the council chamber, a historic vote was taking place. For the first time, representatives from all member species gathered to elect leadership based on merit rather than tradition or power. The results surprised many, a joint leadership council with members from both ancient and young species, including a human representative. But perhaps the most profound change was in how species viewed each other. The barriers that had separated the galaxy into hierarchies of advanced and primitive cultures began to dissolve as each civilization rediscovered the unique strengths they offered. The Marodi, with their artistic insights, began working with human designers to create living spaces that nourished the spirit as well as the body. The Tasic, with their analytical minds, partnered with human mathematicians to develop new approaches to quantum physics. Even the Varaxians found their place, their natural engineering skills finally freed from military applications. 6 months after the crisis began, Admiral Tanaka and Ambassador Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's new embassy on Proxima. Centauri B stars filled the night sky above them, no longer distant and unreachable but part of a connected community. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," Tanaka said quietly. "Should we tell them the final truth?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "About the ancient civilization?" Tanaka nodded. "That it wasn't just human, that it was a cooperative venture between early humans and now extinct species whose DNA we preserved. That we carry within us the genetic heritage of 5 different civilizations." Chen looked out at the stars thoughtfully. "Some truths need time. The galaxy is still adjusting to what they've learned already." "But someday?" Tanaka pressed. "Someday," Chen agreed with a smile, "when they're ready to understand that the boundaries between species were always more fluid than anyone imagined. That the strength of our ancestors came not from isolation but from union." As night deepened on the embassy, lights from ships of 1,000 worlds twinkled in the sky above. 6 months ago, those lights would have represented fear and uncertainty. Now they symbolize something new. Not panic, but possibility. Not withdrawal, but connection. The galaxy had found a new equilibrium. And humanity, the species that had remembered its past while embracing its future, stood not above the community of worlds, but among them. Different, yet part of the same great story written in the stars. In his quarters on the council station, Creel made the final entry in the record he had been keeping since the day humanity withdrew from the talks. He wrote, "The panic that began with withdrawal ends with welcome. The species that remembered its ancient past chose not to rule with it, but to share. Perhaps this was the wisdom our ancestors hoped we would find, that the true power of any civilization lies not in dominance, but in the courage to extend a hand in genuine partnership." He closed the file and named it simply, "The Human Revelation." And across the galaxy, a new age began.